This is the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game.
Rule number one is you have to believe in yourself. You're the only one who doesn't think you belong in this appointment. The prospect has already validated your existence by scheduling time with you. Get it through your head you belong here, go in there, crush it, and close the deal.
A place where sales professionals can come to learn from other sales professionals and thought leaders that have mastered their craft.
The difference between a good salesperson and a best-in-class salesperson is only 2 minutes. By spending an extra 2 minutes on what you might think is a mundane task in the sales game, you separate yourselves from the pack, you grow your book of business, you close more deals, and you retain your accounts.
As well as their peers who are still striving for perfection to achieve their why.
I have a wife and 4 kids. Failure is not an option.
Real sales professionals, real stories, real results. Are you ready to feel the power?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game, and we have Mr. Brandon Smith from the great state of Montana on the show today. And I got to tell you people, if you have never heard Brandon talk, you should. What's going on, man?
Well, thank you. Hey, it's so good to be here. David, Kyle, just honor. Super pumped for just this time together and talking all things insurance. How cool is that?
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be all things insurance, but we'll,
I don't know how cool it is either. I think it's.
Let's be honest. Like, none of us love insurance.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I like the sales process. Yeah. I like the sales game, and you have to have that in order to be in this industry. So that's
True.
What feeds me. I'm not the insurance geek that a lot of people are. I like to read coverage forms to a certain degree and understand them, but I'd much rather just focus on nothing but production all the time.
No, I hear you. I don't get fired up about insurance. It's the helping people, providing solutions, the game, the social strategy of how people think and their buying process and adapting systems and strategies that in return make a profit and impact my life and our team's life. And so I'm right there with you.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So listen, I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this know who you are, but why don't you give them the quick and dirty, give them the backstory, tell them how you got to where you're at. And then we'll start diving deep into what's going on with you currently.
Yeah. Well, no, thanks, man. I, 17 years in the industry, and I don't know if I can use the label veteran yet because I've seen so many other guys in the industry that have been there 30, 40 years, and they're the veterans. And so still relatively young, learning a lot in the industry, but came into the industry right out of college at 21 years old, and I was clueless. I didn't know what a deductible was. I had heard that term, but I couldn't comprehend what it was. And I went to get licensed from going into the family business, and honestly, I failed the property casualty test twice. I got it on my third time because I was clueless. Like, things did not make sense to me. Co-insurance, indemnification were just beyond my mental capacity. And so I really started in the industry as a marketer. I was marketing. I was in our community. I knew people, and I was naturally selling insurance without trying to sell, just based on the relationships I was building. And then really got into some hardcore production and had what some would call success with that, and realized that I didn't want to continue to build this silo of business, but wanted to create exponential growth and train our team to use the same systems, strategies, procedures that I was using. And we've just had phenomenal growth, have been a part of, the kicking off IAOA back in 2015 with Nick, Dave, and Grant, created our own programs. I've had the opportunity to speak and just share what we're doing at, I think, every industry event there is. And just the opportunity to rub shoulders with, honestly, the best of the best. We have an amazing industry with some of the greatest people. And it's friends and family. I look forward to events and conferences for the downtime in the hallways and the dinners and the evenings, because that's where we learn from, just sit there and soaking in what other guys are doing and learning how to take that back and implement and tweaking what we're doing. And like we talked about a minute ago, there's a sales strategy game to it. And I love that I'm able to stand on the shoulders of giants, and where we are today, and that success we're having is based on what others have done before me. And so I'm really good at copy paste plagiarism. I have no new ideas. I'm doing what others have done. And so that's a little bit of my background, and just passionate about encouraging insurance agents, producers, agency owners, motivating them, challenging the way they think. Like, if we get stuck in that mold of doing things the way we've always done in an industry that's already 10 to 15 years behind the rest of the world with a lot of our technologies and automation, like, we got to challenge the status quo, but doing that in a way that isn't condescending, that's encouraging, it's motivating, and providing tools and solutions and networking. And let me introduce you to my friend who can help you with that, or this CRM, or this AMS, and here's how it works together. But helping people achieve their goals, whether that's our local producers in our team, or that's agents around the globe. Not around the globe, around the country. But, and so that's who I am.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man, I think it's interesting because there's so many people that love to complain about the problems, but very few are willing to work on or offer solutions in our industry. And that's one of the nice parts about having a group like IAOA and some of the others that I'm involved in, where you can network with people and share those ideas and make yourself better. And I mean, we were obviously joking about it, that I went to dinner with a group of agents, while I was on the road this week, that are also in the middle market space that I play in, and just kept my mouth shut and listened. And I think that there's so much that can be gained from other people's experience. And it doesn't mean that everything that you hear can be plugged in and played in your agency. It may not work in your state. It may not work in your, overall strategy. But there are so many good ideas that I have that are actually really something that I've morphed out of something I heard somebody else say, and was then able to plug into my own agency and customize it to work for me. And, the fact that we have a network that, and you and I run in the same circles, but we have that network of people that if I have a question, or I want to bounce an idea off of somebody, I've got a Rolodex that's a mile deep now of people that have either already done that or they're actively working on that. And I can tell you, man, I've been in the industry exactly 17 years, just like you have. And the fact, but I've only owned my agency, we're in our 5th year at this point. We launched in 2016. To know that I have people that have been doing this for 20 or 30 years is, it's priceless. Yeah. I don't know all the answers. I have to have people I can pick up the phone and call and ask questions to, because there's guys like Ed Cooper and Jerry Conry and a bunch of these people that have been in the industry much longer than I have. They've forgotten more than I'll ever know.
Right. And you just hit on something that was so good, that we never know it all. There's so much more to learn and adapt. And I fell prey to that chasing the bright and shiny. There was an era where I would go to these conferences and hear this, and this, and go home and sign up for all the softwares and try to plug it in. And I'm getting frustrated because I'm trying to manage and run and figure out how it goes in. And it's creating paralysis. We're not writing business or growing because we're trying to manage softwares and systems and strategies and do what everybody is telling me we need to do. And so, to those listening, my encouragement is always, don't compare your beginning to somebody else's middle.
You can't.
What works for you, an agency, own it. Be secure and confident in who you are, and make your agency the best possible agency in your community, wherever you are. Figure out what works and stick to it. Yes, you can learn and adapt, but we've got a long journey, long road. We are independent agents. We're independent. We have the ability to do what we want to do and what works for us. And that's what makes this industry so great. So absolutely love what you were saying there.
Yeah. So, I went to Innovation for the first time back when it was in Vegas. That was I had not been in the Facebook group prior. Maybe just a couple of months. And decided, I think I'm going to go ahead and do this thing. So I went to Vegas a couple of years ago, and I literally filled up about a legal pad and a half with notes, just listening to people, listening to you speak. You did your Field of Dreams deal at that Innovation. I remember watching that and thought that was genius, like a lot of other people did. And I listened to the different automations and the software. And my goodness, man. I'm a sales guy, so I respect other good salespeople. Then I went into the vendor hall, and I'm like listening to every single person, thinking, "Oh, I should try this. I should try that." And I joke about it all the time. The shiny object I came back with was personal lines. Like, I had everybody telling me, hey, you have all of these tools. Why are you leaving money on the table? And I'm like, you know what? They're right. I should do it. So I didn't even really think it through, Brandon. I came back and said, I'm launching personal lines. And I started reaching out and getting appointments and all of that other stuff with zero processes around it whatsoever. And realized this is an absolute train wreck. So once again, I'm going to thank Justin Sloan publicly for talking me into doing that.
It's got to be like the 10th or 15th or 20 billionth time that's been brought up.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is, we figured it out at this point. No, so we had to actually I just stepped back and said, "All right, enough's enough. We got to get processes in place. Then I'll throw money at it." But I mean, I wanted to do everything, and I think part of that is me being entrepreneurial. Part of it is also, I think that we're in a different level of peer pressure with the social communities that exist online. So it's one thing to go to a conference and be around a bunch of people and go into a vendor hall and see all of this cool technology, which I think all of it is relevant, to somebody. But, it's a different deal when you're constantly engaging people in an online ecosystem and everybody's showing you all of the things they're doing. You have that sort of inherent pressure to try and keep up with the Joneses. So after that year of dealing with all I did with the personal lines debacle, I went to innovation in San Diego last year and said just one thing. I want to leave here with one thing that I didn't have before I left. What's the problem that I need to have solved, and who's going to solve that problem for me? And that's it. And I came out with so much more clarity than I did before. But I think, again, we're all competitive. Anybody who's in this industry is competitive. You have to be. You have to have that edge to you. And when you see other people doing things, and with social media highlighting that and making it even more apparent to you, then you feel almost forced, like you need to keep up with the other people. And that's the number one. I mean, that advice is spot on. And it's the exact same thing that I would tell anybody. Don't go hunting with a shotgun. Hunt with a rifle. Find the one thing that you need to fix right now and fix it. Then move on to the next. It's okay to have like a list of all the problems you want to solve, and all of the things that would be nice to haves that you might be able to find use for. But the other thing is, just let's look at it from a straight financial perspective. You go out and sign up for all of this stuff. There is absolutely no way you can implement all of it simultaneously. So now you have monthly payments that are going out for products that you can't even use. And I mean, I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. I'm telling you, this is exactly what we went through. I mean, I really probably need to, being completely transparent, I need to go through the bank statement and see how many things I have on auto pay every month right now that we're not maximizing efficiency on. And look at Kyle laughing. Yeah, you need hair trimmer.
I still get emails from Zoho.
Oh yeah,
Zoho.
because it's on auto renew. It renews once a year, and I always forget to cancel.
I tried to cancel it. I don't think that I was able to. So you might need to look into that.
It's funny when I go to those conferences. My personal rule, and this isn't for everyone. This is a Brandon Smith rule: is avoid the vendor hall. Don't go in there. Because we have enough experience. We know who we are. We've discovered our identity and where we want to go. And I believe we have the right pieces in place. Now it's maximizing those. If there is something new that I'm missing or adapting, I want to gain that from conversations like this, visiting with you in the hallway in San Diego, or, talking to, a Claudia McLean, or some people that have been there before me that are just brilliant in some of their systems, that it can bring to me, hey, here's the pieces you're missing. Here's the how-to. And then they can make that introduction to the vendor, and because there's a trust, there's a relationship established. And so when I hear a vendor saying, buy my product, you need my product, it doesn't have the same power and weight as an experienced agency veteran who I have a relationship with and I trust, who says, hey, you should look at buying this product. That means so much more because they know our culture, who we are and what we're doing. So for me, it's avoid the bright and shiny, stay out of the vendor hall, rub shoulders with agents in the hallway, be, listening to people speak, take notes there, and then react rather than just going in and, like you're on a shopping spree.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing too, man, if you talk to another agent, they're going to do the one thing that everybody should be doing in, the sales process, even though they're not selling you, they're giving you the why behind it, right? They can say that you should get this product and here's why, because this is what it's done for my agency. And you might find out when you get that explanation and you get the why, it may not meet your need. It might not be what you need. At least you can have educated follow-up questions from that point. But, it's just, you cannot place a value on exactly what you said. The rubbing of shoulders with other agents. The speakers that they have are great. The vendors are all great. That's why we have the conference. But that one-on-one time with people that you don't get to see all the time, even if it's not business related, just continuing to build that relationship. I have lifelong friends that I've made that I didn't even know 2 years ago.
Right. Dude, I'm jacked. This coming April, there's a conference you and I are both speaking at. I am more excited about the people that will be there than the conference or the opportunity to speak. It's the relationships that have so much value.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So listen, you are doing some cool stuff right now. I know you've got your producer development program. I want to talk about that. And I know, and you can tell me if you want to talk about Policy T or not, but I know that you're involved with that at this point. I noticed a dramatic spike in social presence. So I immediately asked Nick if he had sold it to someone. And then, talk a little bit about your agency and some of the things you guys have done there that you think people would benefit from hearing. So I'll let you to pick whichever one of those you want to start with, and we'll roll.
Well, we can hit all three. We'll start with the quick one, the easy one, policyt.com. Just a fun apparel site for insurance agents. Run MVR t-shirts, boats and HO5 t-shirts. Just fun. You got it there. But just a lot of fun. Just cool swag, just funny, good laughs, gets attention in the community. I went to the gym the other day and walked in with my, I was wearing a Run MVR long sleeve tee, and the guy at the front desk at the gym goes, Run MVR? Like, I'm not getting it. What is it? I said, it's terrible insurance joke. I'm in the insurance agency and we have to run motor vehicle reports. And he goes, oh, that's awesome. And it created a conversation which generated a new lead. I got him in touch with our office, and just this week. So I don't know if we've written him yet, but he's just fun swag. You have seen an increased social media presence, Instagram, Facebook with Policy T. The cool part is my 13-year-old daughter was our only employee, and she manages all the social media, and just give her the content. Here's what to do. And she's done a phenomenal job in just learning how to manage social media and campaigns and target marketing. And so the biggest thing with Policy is just an opportunity to invest in my daughter, to help her learn business that's not taught in school at 13 years old. So,
well, you can tell her she's successful in her endeavors because a dude from Tampa, Florida had a noticeable saw a noticeable spike in online presence, and she's doing a good job.
Awesome.
And I think you bring up a good point, man. I mean, insurance, by and large, insurance agencies over time have been handed down from generation to generation. You have a lot of multi-generational family agencies. We had Mike Crowley on to talk about the things that he's gone through, and he's just one example of many. I made the decision when I got into this industry that I'm not going to pressure. I have 4 kids. I'm not going to pressure them to do to follow behind me. I don't want them to feel like they're pigeonholed or have any animosity. But what I do like is the fact that there are other things that may be one-off from the agency that I can engage them in. So, the deal with policy and teaching your daughter about business and online presence and all of that, whether she chooses to engage in the insurance aspect of things or not, really is kind of irrelevant. You're giving her a skill set for her life that she can use for anything. And, I've purposely kept my mouth shut because I don't want to go through the headache of trying to force my oldest son into doing anything. And over time, as he went out in the real world and got a job bagging groceries, he realized that his old man may be onto something. And so he starts to ask those questions. Hey, how do you make money doing this? Or what do you do with that? And so he is in a TV production class. He's in his senior year of high school now, and he's in a TV production class and has been for 3 years. So I just basically said, look, man, I don't know if you have any capacity outside of your, grocery bagging gig or not, but I'm really looking for somebody that can help me with video editing and some other things around the content we're producing. And I know that you have some experience in Adobe Premiere from your TV production stuff. Do you have any interest in doing that? He's like, oh man, yeah, absolutely. You mean I could come and work at the office and do all this? So as a proud father typically would, he's got it. I went out and got him a laptop set up and all of the stuff that he needs to do. But then what happened is my 14-year-old son's like, well, Grayson gets to work with dad. How come I can't go do it? So now Landon comes over every day after school, and he's the one who handles all of the actual videotaping. So when I get on camera, he's the one turning the different cameras on and doing the clap to make sure I can line up the audio from the different views when we get it into Premiere. And so it's been a cool experience for me, because as a father of boys, okay, I have 3 boys and a little girl, and it's not that I love any of them more than the other one, but the little girl's different than the boys are. As a boy's father, that's always been, that's my dream. I want the boys in the business with me. I want them to be able to do, the things that I do. And so there's some level of validation there for me that if I can make this work, and I realize that I'm still dealing with teenage kids and I can't necessarily be overbearing with them, that I think it could turn into something really cool. And if nothing else, it makes my days better for having them here with me.
Absolutely. My 13-year-old daughter, she is so ecstatic about working and having an income. And it's kind of, I have reasons behind it, because I want to teach her and help her develop skills, but I also want her to learn how to handle finances at a young age. I see so many people out there having no clue. And so just this week, we went to the bank, opened up a checking account for her, got her a debit card, put $100 in her account. And over the next year, I want her to learn how to balance a checking account, how to make a deposit, withdrawal, plan for the future. And so I told her, I said, Avery, if your balance 1 year from today is $100 or greater, I will match every penny in your account. You can go spend, you can go to the mall, you can go spend your $100. That's fine. But if next year you have $105 in your account, I will give you $105. If you have $500, I will give you $1,000, because I want her to be thinking long-term of saving, investing that balance, and just not frivolous spending. And so now her siblings, they all want to come to work for dad, because she's getting all this money. She's going to make all this money. And so we're walking through this, but they're 8 and 10. So it'll be a little while. But my fear is now with Avery, with her working and all, I'm going to end up writing this girl a check for $3,000 a year from now. And I think I made a big mistake, because she is that kid who is going to do it. But no, it's not about the insurance or getting them in the insurance business. It's the life skills, and insurance just happens to be a gateway, a doorway to so many different opportunities with marketing and strategy and podcasts and audio visual. I mean, all those things. And so if you can bring the family into the business and not even be tied to the insurance aspect, I think that's a win for everyone. So kudos to
those
you.
Those are cool stories. Those are cool stories. My son hit me in the face with a wooden block this morning. So there's that.
I thought you were gonna bring the big cat into this somehow and tie it back to him.
Yeah, we had your son's little policy this morning or something.
He hit me right in the eye with a wooden block. It was pretty fun. So he's 8 months old though, so he's got some time.
That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, I think it is cool to get the next generation in whichever way we do that. And part of that too, look, life skills are awesome, but you and I both know that there's a void of some of that can be taught inside the insurance industry. And both of us have our own ways that we're trying to go about fixing that. And I know that you've come out with the producer development program, and I want you to talk a little bit about that. That's something that's extremely important to me, because I came into the industry with absolutely no experience, and there was no way for me to be trained on just the basic stuff that I needed to do. I'm not somebody who's going to sit back and wait. I took the bull by the horns, and I went out and created my own process and did all of those things. But as an agency principal, I realized that I have to have tools in place to teach people when I bring them on in how to produce. And I've always had some level of sales acumen, and it's something that I've been passionate about, but learning to apply what I know into this industry, it wasn't a direct translation. And I probably talked to a dozen agencies who told me no, that they wouldn't give me a chance, and I'm looking at this, man. I was making over $100,000 a year in retail, which, by today's standards isn't as much as it used to be. But back then it was still a pretty good chunk of change. I couldn't get a $25,000 a year starting producer job. Nobody was willing to take a chance on me because they didn't think that or they didn't believe that they had what they needed in order to get me up to speed and get me trained. And it made me mad. And as a result, I went and figured it out on my own. And then I went and targeted all those agencies' business and tried to take it from them to teach them a lesson about why they should have hired me. But I look back at it, man, and it is a major, major gap. And, I don't understand where the industry's head is when this comes up, because to me, and I've been pretty vocal about this, if you're a producer looking for a job, you're not a producer, okay? Because producers get locked down wherever they're supposed to be. And what I mean by that, to clarify before everybody decides to send me nasty emails, is this. Good producers are either taken care of by the agency that they're working in, by and large, and they have a path to partnership or whatever that agency needs to do, book ownership. There's a million different ways you can do that to give somebody the golden handcuffs and get them to stay. And it starts with culture, but financial mechanisms as well, because I'm a big believer in building both income statement and balance sheet wealth. Okay. Too many times we focus on the income and we're not focusing on the asset. And if we're setting younger people up for success, we need to explain the difference to them in what the two of those things are. So back to your point with what you're doing with your daughter in the matching of the funds, I took a page out of Ramsey's book, right? I did the same thing with my son because I knew it was a safe bet. And I offered him to match him dollar for dollar for everything he saved up to buy a new car. Well, he's driving an 02 Civic that cost $750 because he didn't listen to what I had to say. And he complains about it when it breaks down and everything else. Well, unfortunately, Grayson, this is a life lesson you needed to learn. And you're not in harm's way by learning it, but maybe next time you'll understand, here's how you do this. Now, my middle son, I'm scared to death. He's going to be driving a 7 Series because that joker has a lockbox in his bedroom that I don't even know how much money he has in that thing. He refuses to put it in the bank. He's probably going to end up living out west somewhere in a mountain cabin running from the government because that's the way he thinks. But
well, dude, the ones you got to watch out for are Ethan and Caroline. Don't they have a hustle where they just they're doing?
It's insane. Yeah, no, my younger two, my older boys. I don't really talk about it a lot, but my older boys, I was married prior to Andrea, and so Grayson and Landon were from my first wife, and Ethan and Caroline are my children with my current wife and my last wife. But their DNA is so much different. My wife is as alpha male as I am. Like, I sometimes wonder if maybe she lived in California for a while and made some bad decisions, but like, she is every bit as alpha male as I am. And I mean, she's in sales. She's got a great job with her company. And, my two kids, Ethan is 9. He's my special needs guy. And Caroline is 7. They hustle, man. Like, Caroline, she was walking around with a pocket full of money. We had no idea where it came from, and it turned around. She goes door to door in the neighborhood, knocking on doors, just asking people if they need their dogs walked. And I'm like, you're 7. Like, what are you going to do? Go buy slime with this? I mean, I don't think, but it's insane to watch them, how they approach it. But I mean, it's a huge issue, I think, in our industry, and I'm going to bring it back to the whole training thing. And, basic sales skills are not something that come naturally to a lot of people. I do think that people who are really, really good may have some level of natural ability, but it's the passion behind them really enjoying what they do that drives them to make themselves better, become more educated, hone their skills, push themselves to go after the next tier up the next rung up the ladder, whatever else. But it all starts with the foundation. So talk a little bit about what you're doing to build that foundation.
Well, I mean, we could talk about this all day, and that's why I have a course that's multiple hours. So 16 years into the industry, I realized that all producer development training, all new sales training in our industry is either dry, lethargic, boring in a sterile conference room in a hotel with a 93-year-old agency veteran in a suit and tie trying to tell us how to sell like he did back during the Great Depression. Or it's high-level courses like a Grant Cardone sales program that's an all-encompassing, here's how to sell, here's how to go, here's a rally and inspiration, and it's $20,000, $30,000. Or it's from an insurance carrier saying, hey, we have this program, one or two options. You can pay for it, or we can give you a loan that you can earn back by selling more of our product. And through the course, it's going to have a slant about our product. We're going to train you how to sell, but it's going to be with our product. So who wins in that? The carrier. Again, look at the size of their building, look at the size of our agency. They're always going to win. And so I realized we've got to have a program that develops producers. When there's agency owners hiring, they don't have the time to go sit and develop and give them all the tools in the trade because they stop production. They stop doing what they need to do to go train, that new David Carothers. They got to take that risk on that guy who doesn't have the experience. And so I wanted to create a program that does that. And I don't get into, the definition of deductible or indemnification. That's for you to learn and get your license in. And
CIC and CPCU have been doing that for decades, man.
Right.
And that's what I tell everybody too. We don't need to recreate the wheel. If you need foundational insurance knowledge, there are plenty of great places that have proven that they are experts at teaching that. I mean, that's where my designations came from. So why would I not send my own people through that? So I agree with you completely. That's not where the gap is by any stretch.
Right. And so COVID-19 hit. We have this pandemic, and I had, I think, 15 different conferences and speaking engagements in 2020 get canceled. And realized, wait, I love to motivate, encourage, and challenge insurance agents. And that's not happening. Like, I miss that. And so I took my message, created a course, and said, here, you don't have to fly me in. You don't have to put on a big event. You can just, this is a one-off, get this course, give it to your new producer, give it to your team, your agency, go through it. And anytime you hear me speak, my catchphrase, I say it every single time. The difference between a contact and a contract is that letter R. It's relationships. The difference between a prospect and a policyholder is a relationship. The difference between a window shopper and a buyer is a relationship. And so you and I know well enough that retaining a client is 10 times less expensive than going out to try and acquire a new client. And so when you have a relationship with somebody, their heart follows. And when you have their heart, their wallet follows, their retention, their referrals, their loyalty, and you develop what all the other sales programs are saying. You need to create customers for life. Here's how to do it. Sell more of our product. No, go love people, build relationships, invest in them. And then when you have loyalty, it makes those objections. My price went up. My claim was denied. When you're working with a friend, it's so much easier to have those conversations and retain the business. In the movie Jerry Maguire, they say the key to this business is personal relationships. The key to our business is personal relationships. And so when I was out there traveling and speaking, we talk about how we're doing these things. And then all the follow-up emails and calls where people want to pick your brain and figure out the how-to. People in our industry don't know how to network. They say, well, yeah, you said I need to be out and network in my community. How do I do that? What's that mean? What's that look like? And that stuff's not taught. Agency owners aren't teaching them. Agency owners are telling new producer, hey, go out, pound doors, pick up the phone, make calls, cold calls, go network, build relationships. And they don't know. They walk out and they panic and they freeze up. And it's not surprising that 92% of new producers leave our industry in the first 2 years because they don't have the tools and resources. They have the head knowledge, but don't know how to go out and do it. So I created a course on really relationship selling. I wanted to hit how to build relationships, how to do that in your community. You mentioned earlier my field of dreams. You're coaching a youth sports team. Here's how to leverage that and generate thousands of dollars in revenue by doing what you're already doing. How to overcome objections. How to break away from value versus cost. You're too far. You're too young. Your agency's not big enough. Are you experienced? You're only 22 years old. How do you overcome those objections? And how do you understand really what the question is behind the question? When people say, you get an online lead, a digital lead, and they say, oh, I thought you were more local. You're too far away. That's really not their objection. Their objection is, are you accessible? Are you reliable? I don't want an 800 number. I don't want a call center. Are you a real person? But how do we develop that terminology to overcome that objection in a way that builds and strengthens that relationship that leads us to the sale and the customer for life? So, we're going to hit on prospecting. You got to know your product. When somebody asks a coverage question, don't give them an answer that is the insurance jargon definition of the coverage. Have a real life story that you can share with them about an experience, a time you saw this coverage in place and what it looked like. How to generate a proposal. Like, what should a proposal look like? How do you deliver a proposal? And then, I I share exactly what we're doing and the programs we're using in our agency and the software, and walk you through the how-to. And maybe you want to use a different CRM than we use. That's totally fine, but the principle's the same. There's a crazy alarming statistic out there that there's two of them, but one is that only 13% of clients believe their agent truly understands their needs.
Wow.
80, you want to grow your business, you have an 87% opportunity of gaining market share by just slowing down and building a relationship and knowing your people, knowing your clients. That's huge.
So without giving away too much of the secret sauce, what's like one piece of advice that, you could give maybe either a new agent or someone who is maybe struggling with building relationships?
Let me say one thing quick before you answer that, Brandon. One of the questions I get more than anything else is, how have I been able to scale my agency? And I don't really think about it that much. We spend money on technology and marketing, lead generation, all of that stuff. But when I sit back and look at it, it revolves around my personal book, right? My personal book is the overwhelming majority of the agency revenue. And somebody asked me this week about one of my accounts. We were having a conversation and they said, oh, how long have you had that account? And I said, 16 years. And then I was talking about another account. Oh, how long have you had that? 12 years. And it's like, all of a sudden I'm realizing that part of the reason my agency has been able to scale is because my average relationship is 10 plus years old in my book of business. So to your point about retention, it's not necessarily as much about scaling as it is retaining. Certainly you can add new business, but if you're adding new business to an already solid foundation, that's the beauty of residual income and what makes this industry so great. To the point that you made about relationships and accessibility, I was in St. Louis this week, and when I was out there, I some friends of mine, Josh Gurley and Andrew Deering from Warner Robins, Georgia, were also in St. Louis because they have a national program for truck and trailer truck body manufacturers and trailer manufacturers, and they were in a meeting yesterday. I was talking to Josh to see how their appointment went. They were in a meeting yesterday, and the lady just said, look, we're a little bit concerned about, you not being local. We're concerned about accessibility to see you. And Josh said, I'm as accessible as the cell phone that you have in your pocket. And I probably would have said, well, you are talking to me in person right now. So, I mean, obviously I can make it to Missouri. But I think it's interesting, man, with COVID and all of that, a lot of the relationship tactics that you need to know are changing dramatically, and it's bringing down geographic barriers that existed prior. And those don't exist anymore. People are willing to do business over the internet, which is uncommon in the middle market. In my world, we still put on a suit and tie and we go shake hands and thank people for the business. And we're meeting in conference rooms and everything else. But with all of that morphing, there's a land of opportunity for producers and agencies to grow outside of their own geography, number one. But number two, what I believe is it also is a huge opportunity for prospects to be able to expand their horizons in the people they would normally talk to, and they can really focus on getting the best overall solution and value proposition delivered to their company because they're not encumbered by geography anymore. They have the ability to go out and pick the absolute best. And I was talking to these guys. When I was talking to Andrew and Josh, we were going back and forth literally all day yesterday because they got an objection from somebody else the week that they had met with the week before, who basically their answer was, well, I talked to the owner and they would prefer to meet with, they would prefer to stay with a local agency. Now, that local agency does not have the specific industry knowledge that is dialed in to exactly what these guys do. So I told them, I said, you need to send an email back to the gatekeeper and the owner and make the subject, what happens to you if we don't meet? And then you can go in and say, because we are specialists in this, here are 3 bullets that have happened to companies who weren't with a specialist in your industry that moved to us. And this is what happened to them because they weren't with a specialist that ultimately made them move. You have the choice right now to make the move and avoid having to go through any of this pain. And, we'll see if it works or not. But, I think it's interesting. The geography is huge. Oh, by the way, that's straight out of Never Split the Difference. Just so you know, Kyle. One day you'll get the book.
Yeah, cool.
No, it's so good. And to Kyle's question, I mean, honestly, Kyle, I could give you 100 answers, and each of those answers we could break down and spend an hour dissecting.
Just one little nugget. I don't want you to give away your thoughts.
I got two nuggets for you. One, I think, is just valuing people. And I use an acronym in the course for value: vulnerability, authenticity, level-headed, upfront, and empathy. When you do those 5 things, it's your sale to lose. I see so many people that aren't upfront. They hide terms and conditions and don't sacrifice your integrity just to peddle another policy. Like that, that drives me like up the wall that people do that. But just
I know somebody else that doesn't like that either. This guy right here.
Yeah, it just just be real, be authentic, and when you have a relationship, it's so much easier just to be real and to be honest. But I think part of in this course, it's more than basic sales training. There is some, you have to have some insurance training in there to make the principles work. But I think asking the right questions when you have a prospect proposal, learning to ask the right questions can make a huge impact on not just getting the sale, but the size of the sale. One of my favorites that our team uses that generates thousands of dollars in new revenue a year. It sounds so juvenile, so simplistic, it's ridiculous. But when somebody calls your office for a new quote or to make a change to their existing policy and they need to add a pickup or an SUV, after we get your make, model, VIN, we ask the question, does that F-150 have a tow hitch? Guess what the answer is every single time? Yes. Which now opens the door to, what do you tow?
Yeah. What are you towing behind that bad boy?
8 out of 10 times the answer is nothing. I don't tow anything. But those 2 times, that's where you learn about the boat, the ATVs, the snowmobiles, the utility trailer, the camper trailer. And it isn't that they're hiding it from you. People are uneducated and they assume their ATVs are covered on their homeowner's policy. So they're not hiding it. So it creates that conversation. When they say, oh, I've got 2 ATVs and a trailer we tow on, a couple times a year on the weekend out to some property. Now you're able to say, oh, so do you have a $1 million or $2 million umbrella? 8 out of 10 times the answer is we don't have an umbrella. So all we've done is now open the door to deeper, more meaningful conversations where we're going to be vulnerable, authentic, level-headed, upfront, and serve them with empathy. We're going to get that account because of that relationship in their heart. And when they send referrals to us, guess what? People who own boats and ATVs, guess what their friends have? Boats and ATVs. So your referral is no longer that monoline auto with the chance at a renters for a college kid who referred his roommate to you because you did a good job. You're working with people, and we all know the numbers. When you have 3 or more policies, your retention goes up to what David just talked about, 10, 12, 16 years of relationship. So just wanting to ask the right questions. And in the course, we've got like a dozen of those we ask our clients when they have a 3-car garage, we ask them what they keep in their garage. That's where we find out. Hobbies.
What's in your garage?
Yeah, don't ask me that question, man. Good grief. Well, yeah, we did. So yeah, that was the life hack that we came up with last weekend. We're redoing our whole garage, putting in custom cabinets, had an epoxy floor put down because my garage is the bane of my existence, period. I can't stand it. It's like literally, it's like the storage shed that you just open up the door and you throw everything in and wherever it lands is where it stays. It is absolutely despicable, the condition that got in. And I told my wife going into this year, we spent a ton of money during COVID fixing all of this stuff. The garage is next. I can't. I mean, I'm the guy that literally every time I need a socket, I go to my socket set and the one socket missing is the one that I need to finish that project. It's uncanny every time. But here's a life hack that you probably didn't think you were going to get on an insurance podcast. Short-term project, had to empty the garage out, get the floor fixed, and then let it cure for 24 hours so that we could then put stuff back in, because the cabinets aren't getting done for another month yet because of just scheduling and all of that. So I went on, we were looking for pods and all of this other stuff to see what it was going to cost. I went out, I rented a U-Haul for $19.99 from a place that's 1 mile from my house. We loaded up the U-Haul, left it in the driveway the entire time that they did the floor, unloaded it, and I did the same thing that would have cost me $400 for a pod for like $125.
Solid.
But Brandon, to your point, here's the thing, man. This is what I like about you. And it's something that I get guilty of, because I think so many times we are worried about having the greatest sales trick, or, you know, being slick in our presentation, or having that gotcha moment or whatever else. At the end of the day, you build your business through the basics, asking just simple questions. And so many times we're worried about the most advanced technique or whatever else that we forget that stuff. We forget the basics. And I mean, I'm going to use a real world example. I was in St. Louis because I specifically needed to help a friend with an account. And it was a contractor, a general contractor, that is not getting jobs because their experience mod had gotten to a 1.11. And it was causing some pretty significant heartburn in the relationship. And I wanted to be able to help them go and make an appeal to the other firm that was qualifying the GCs and get them to open them back up. Now, some circumstances around this. The mod went up because of one indemnity claim that was a result of somebody that's not even in the construction aspect of the business. It was a part-time person that cleans the office that was doing something they were not supposed to do on an upper floor of the office that had had some floor damage, which had subsequently turned into some roof damage on the lower level. And the person went up there after they were told not to. They stepped in a soft spot, fell through the roof, and ended up getting injured. Okay. So here's some more circumstances around that. We go into the workers' comp database. This person has 4 prior workers' comp claims over the course of the last decade. So this was not an accident, more than likely. I don't know why you would want to fall through a ceiling, but whatever. But the other thing is, it was not relevant to anything that they would be doing on the job site. So we pulled the historical experience mods, and we showed that they've always been, you know, below 0.9. Number one, we pulled a record of this person who had done everything, you know, with these other comp claims. We ran the DART rate to show the number of days away from work and benchmarked that against the average construction company in that state. And we went through all of this extravagant stuff to make our argument. And I got on the plane yesterday, and I read a couple books on the way back, and I got to thinking, and I'm thinking to myself, I have so overcomplicated my argument. I've so overcomplicated my position. And here's why. On the very front page of the experience modification worksheet, at the bottom, in smaller than desired print, it clearly says this information should be used only for insurance rating purposes. It should never be used for safety scoring related to job bidding. It says it right on NCCI's worksheet. So all I really needed to do is say, why are we using this as a basis to determine whether or not somebody is going to get a job? NCCI themselves clearly say, don't do this. There's a reason for that. It doesn't give you the whole picture. Here's the whole picture. This is why we don't think that you should exclude us from doing the work. This could be a $20 million swing in revenue for this company, or whatever it ends up being, just because of that one simple thing. But I was so worried about coming up with this dazzling case that I never dialed it back to think, here's that one piece of information on the front page of the mod worksheet that the rating bureau themselves says, don't use this for this purpose. Here's why. And that's it. Now we have an airtight case. GC's open back up.
Well, there you go.
Completely overcomplicated the whole thing.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it happens.
We do the same thing every day in our agencies. We have overcomplicated the simplicity of selling insurance.
Well, it's like when you start to become an expert at things, then, you know, like you said, David, you start to try to finesse and kind of maybe pick up some different strategies that are more extravagant. And every time I would try to do that in past careers, it would always result in my my numbers going down. And I would be, well, you know, what's going on here? Like, obviously I know what I'm doing. And I'd sit back and I'd look and be like, well, in this situation, I started having this conversation with this buyer for like no reason other than I knew too much about what I was talking about, and I ended up talking my way out of the sale. I think it happens a lot.
Well, I mean, here's another.
I was just saying, it's cliche-ish. We hear that you have 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen more than you talk. But the truth is, in our industry, if we just shut up and listen, our clients will tell us exactly what we need to do in order to get the sale. We'll learn everything we need to know. And there's producers, we have them on our team that just stop talking, please.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop and just shut your mouth and listen, and you'll get the sale. Don't make it more complex than it is.
One of the things, that we started, I made a commitment at the first of the year that I'm going to start pumping some money into different avenues to do lead gen, because, our primary way to get in front of people and the most successful, in my opinion, for the long term, is cold call marketing drops. We go and we call on businesses. We haven't done a ton digitally. We haven't done a ton of telemarketing stuff. We have success in being very focused in knowing, number one, who is our ideal prospect, and where are they around us? And then how can I get in front of them? And so we'll literally knock on doors and go in and introduce ourselves. And then we'll put some stuff inside of HubSpot and let it do the automated drip campaigns and all of that stuff. But, we used Wes Anderson's company, Agency VA, and we have a guy that's a VA that has absolutely zero calling experience for setting appointments. And the thought process behind it was, I don't want my producers calling on companies that we don't have a ton of information on. I want them to go after the high mod business because we know we can close that. I want them to go after the middle market stuff that they have gone in and they need to follow up on the drops that they've made. But that leaves this huge subset of all of this stuff in our CRM that we're never doing anything with because we just don't have the bandwidth to do that and go on new business appointments. So I decided that I am going to build an appointment setting machine, and I'm going to do it on a virtual assistant platform. So a couple of things. Number one, I didn't realize that Marvin was a common name in the Philippines, but apparently it is, because I know 5 guys from the Philippines and 4 of them are named Marvin. So either that's like the number one alias that they use, or it's a thing. But the other piece of it is
an amazing alias to use, though, by the way. If that's what they're going with, that's incredible.
Like, I wonder, do they have pictures of Marvin, posters of Marvin Hagler on their wall? I mean, I don't know. But anyhow, but here's what I've learned through this process. This guy doesn't know any different. We're building him from the ground up. Do you want me to tell you? I want everybody to pay very, very close attention to what I'm about to say. This guy has never called before, and he is booking appointments. He's booked at least a half dozen appointments so far. Do you know why, Brandon? Because he's asking for the appointment. That's it. Earth-shattering. He calls up and says, "Hi, I'm Marvin from Florida Risk Partners. I understand that your workers' comp renewal is coming up. I know you weren't expecting my call, and honestly, I've got a ton of calls to make today. I don't want to take up a ton of your time, but I would love to set a time next Tuesday at 2 or Wednesday at 3 for one of our agents to talk to you about that renewal if you would be open to it. Which one works?" And it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, people are hanging up on him. People aren't interested, but he's also booking appointments through a very basic conversation. We're not spending a ton of money on software. We don't have any, crazy mailer that we're sending out. It's literally picking up the phone, calling and asking for the appointment. And I see this even at the closing table over the course of my career. There are so many times that producers are talking themselves out of a deal when all they have to do is ask for the order. If you want the order, ask for it.
David, in producer development program, I talk about 48% of producers never follow up with the prospect. Like that's ridiculous. Like, you just want to just follow up, just pick up the phone. It's that simple. Quit worrying about what CRM, what software, how to use Zapier, and just figure out how to call your client back. Let's start there. Let's quit chasing the bright and shiny and serve people. But in the program, we end the program really with how to close the sale, because that's not taught when you get your insurance license. And again, agency owners are like, hey, hire a new producer, go network, go sell insurance, quote, issue, and don't have the process or systems in place. And we don't teach them, here's how to close, here's how to ask, here's how to read body language, here's how to understand who the decision maker is. More times than not, you're not dealing with the decision maker. initially. You got to get past the gatekeeper. But agency owners aren't teaching that. And it's so frustrating that the difference between success and quitting in the first 2 years is literally an inch. If we can overcome that gap, success is unbelievable in this industry.
And I think part of the problem lies on the shoulders of the agency principals themselves, because I have heard this from the horse's mouth multiple times. Well, nobody taught me. You're going to have to figure it out. That's how I learned it. School of Hard Knocks. Why would you not want to run your business better than the guy that you learned from? I mean, that makes zero sense to me. Why wouldn't you want to set your own producers up for success as opposed to letting them figure it out? I mean, you're going to burn through really good talent by not supporting them. And that's I mean, you wouldn't go buy a new car and then never take it to have an oil change. You have to maintain what you invest in. And producers being maintained is something that's a huge deficiency. So I'm glad to hear.
I wonder with it, David, like looking at myself, like I'm being vulnerable in here. Like when I was selling full time, had some great success, had awards, accolades, trips, had done all that at a young age. I was going on agency trips or carrier trips, and I was like the youngest on the trip by like 20 years and had done that. But inside of me, now seeing some of our producers outperform what I was doing, there's part of me that struggles with that because I wanted to be the best of the best. So I can somewhat relate to, I learned the hard way. I'm not going to give them because I don't want them to ever, but it's this push and pull because we want to grow our agency. We want to be great, but we don't want to take and invest the time because what if they might be better than me? And we got to get to a place of being able to look ourselves in the mirror every day. I think, the Snow White analogy, mirror, mirror on the wall, every day the mirror tells you who's the most beautiful. And if we do that every day in a row, look at ourselves in the mirror and be like, all right, mirror, mirror on the wall, what do I need to do today to reach our goal? What do I need to grow? And sometimes that's just saying, you know what, I need to invest in this producer because they're able to reach and impact people that I won't be able to. And I think there's a little bit on both sides of that of just pride and ego get in the way of growing our agencies.
I think pride and ego get in the way of doing a lot of stuff, man. And if you can check that at the door, you're ultimately going to be way more successful. Let other people learn how great you are. You don't have to be the one to tell them.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
So talk about a little bit about what's going on at your agency, and then we'll wrap up. I want to be respectful of your time, but I have to tell you, man, when I watched your presentation at Innovation last year, I was left scratching my head trying to figure out how anybody can make a living in Montana selling insurance based off of what we're used to in Florida. You rattled off all of this stuff that you did, and when I saw the premium that you put there, I'm thinking, that's a home, 2 cars, and an umbrella. And it was like 5 accounts. It was crazy. So talk a little bit about that, because, I mean, you guys have to have processes and everything else on lockdown in order to be able to make it profitable. And I know that your agency is extremely successful, but you have to have some pretty serious volume in order to make it work with the numbers that I saw.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I don't want to, again, being authentic, we don't have it figured out. We have a long ways to go, and we're trying to grow and adapt and get better. I recently talked into my 2 cousins, partners, and I said, guys, I feel like the biggest fraud right now. I've been out traveling, speaking, saying we're doing this and this and this, and here's the results we're getting, and we're struggling at maintaining and continuing to do this, this, and this. I go out and talk about our new onboarding program and how we're allowing people, but that still takes time and discipline to do that consistently. And we've got to be better at these things. And so, yeah, we have systems and strategies. Are they on lockdown? No, we're human. We get distracted. We're chasing and trying to adapt and figure out. So, but what we are good at is following up, taking care of people, under promising, over delivering. And so we do have a lot of good things going. We are in the process right now of another big transition of moving our CRM. We are breaking away from Infusionsoft and going to the Better Agency platform and just having phenomenal success there. Loving it. It's a dream come true.
Nice.
What those guys are doing. Because we have 6 different platforms running right now between our Easy Links, our comparative rater, Help Scout, where our service requests are dropping into, Ring Central, Infusionsoft, Pipe Drive on the front end, and it's just we got people all over the place. So to have everybody on one platform is going to be amazing. So we're walking through that transition right now, which is a big project. But we have a really unique setup. We insure about 800 churches and nonprofits throughout Montana, Wyoming, and North Dakota. We have an exclusive contract with Brotherhood Mutual. We're their only agent, and we insure roughly 90% of the churches in Montana. Wow. And so what we've done is we insure the churches, and then we're able to cross-sell with our life and health team, their group health, their retirement plans, and then we bring in hey, we've done everything else. Here, we can help you with home and auto. We work with the church staff, and then hoping for referrals throughout their congregation. The downside is that every church has a State Farm agent in there, so it's not as successful as it may sound, but that's really kind of the approach we've taken in Montana. At the same time, we have a phenomenal relationship with Dave Ramsey and his team. We have figured out the systems and strategies to make that referral program work. Yes, the leads are expensive. Yes, we get bad leads. Yes, we get fraudulent leads, but we are still consistently in the black on the first year. And we have 18 different territories, we have 22 different territories in 18 different states where Dave's sending us leads. And so, those numbers you're seeing, David, we systems and strategies. We have a system when those leads coming in. So on our personal line side, we don't really have a lot of producers based on definition. We've got a lot of great closers who follow up with the leads we're feeding them, and we have a system. And if they stay true to the system, it works. And since like 2009, we've been just continually building and making the system. And at one point, it was all an Excel spreadsheet where a lead comes in, we're typing it in, we're calling, we're making notes of when we followed up last. And just to have a CRM that's automating all that for us has been huge. And it comes back to the sales thing. I hear guys all the time that they're getting online leads and they're terrible and they're struggling. And 48% of producers don't follow up with a prospect. And you have a 90% chance of making a sale after, or making contact with an online lead after the 6th attempt. How many guys stop after that second, third try and be like, I got their voicemail again, it was no good. So building out the systems where we're making 19 attempts with online leads in the first 45 days, and we are making contact with 92%, quoting 70% of that 92%, and then issuing just right between 48 and 51% on any given month of those leads. So just we're very unique in the sense that we're property casualty. We've got life health, doing a lot with Medicare. And then we have some financial planners and a wealth management side. And so the internal cross-selling of, we're paying a high dollar amount for a lead, but we're able to maximize that because we can do everything and cross-sell. And so, yeah, we're here in Western Montana. Dave, it's beautiful. You guys got to get out here at some point, and
it's coming.
Hit the slopes this time of year. And
there you go.
Yeah. So just loving life and loving our team, and trying to motivate, encourage, and challenge agents along the way.
Nice.
That's awesome, man. Well, listen, we've been going at least an hour. I don't even remember because we cut off the first time, but I wanted to be respectful of your time. And thank you so much for taking time out to talk to us today. I know you're busy. You have a lot of other things you could be doing. I think that a lot of people listening to this are going to be able to take away quite a bit from this conversation, and probably will want to learn more about what you're doing. So why don't you tell them how to find you? And website, all of that stuff for producer development program, Policy T, all of that stuff. This is your shameless plug.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I am all over social media. Brandon Smith, extremely common. So replace the S with the number 5. If you want to find me on Twitter, Instagram, that's my handle, Brandon5, MITH. PolicyT.com, ProducerDP.com. Again, I wanted to create a program that was not overpriced, that added value, that every agency can afford. It's not a high ticket item. It's $399 for an individual user, $1,500 for an agency of 10. But I guarantee you, just that one question alone in there, do you have a tow hitch? We'll pay for the program time and time again. It's so worth it. This isn't my get rich, my retirement campaign. this is a way in the middle of a pandemic to invest in agents, motivate, encourage, challenge. Check it out. But dude, David, Kyle, thank you guys so much. Absolutely an honor to be here and just share the last hour or so with you guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely,
all you guys are doing for the industry. And I'm motivated, encouraged by what you guys are doing and your podcast and the guests. And it's just, you guys are some of the giants that I'm able to stand on the shoulders of. So I appreciate you guys.
I don't know about all that, man, but I appreciate the compliment, and it was definitely an honor and privilege to have you on. I hope you have a great weekend, and go Bucks, my man. Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
By the way, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up my good friend Eric Garcia right now, who decided that he was going to talk to me on my Facebook. Well, he posted something yesterday because I have a habit of leaning back in my chair and it makes my head look like it's going lower. So he thought he was being funny by posting a picture of me inside of Cass's mastermind, but he was imitating me and pretending like his head was like right at the level of the thing. And he said, and he made some sort of a snarky remark. And I guess he forgot how quick I am on my feet, because my immediate response was, oh, well, here's my impersonation of David. I'm always worried about, a sinkhole being under his chair when he's in a picture. And I said, here's my impersonation of the New Orleans Saints. Oh yeah, my bad. They're not in the picture. And so today he decided he was going to hammer me on one of my posts about this weekend. And he said something about, Brady probably deflated the balls. And I said, yeah, well, he deflated the Saints' hopes and dreams. So I guess that's always possible.
Big oof.
Yeah. So anyhow, we're pumped, man. It's exciting.
It's gonna be a tough game, man. Especially since we, beat the snot out of them earlier this year. I'm thinking they're out for revenge. And dude, Rodgers has just been on an absolute scorched earth tour this year. I mean,
I'm nervous. I'm a big TB12 fan. Always have been. Love the guy. I think it comes down to the running game. If we can hold them to under 150, maybe 200 yards in the running game, I think we'll be okay.
I don't think that I would be surprised if they rush for more than 100 yards, to be honest with you.
It falls on our secondary.
100%.
Adams is a stud.
Story of our life.
I was going to say, that is the story of the Bucs' life since John Lynch and Rondé Barber retired. So anyhow, listen, we need to wrap up. Brandon, thanks again, man. I hope you have a great weekend.
All righty. Appreciate it, guys.
You've been listening to the Power Producers Podcast. You can follow Killing Commercial Insurance on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our book, The Extra 2 Minutes, and our website, killingcommercial.com.